What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle for the next episode of Oxygen Not Included, where I'm trying to get some carbon dioxide cleared out of this lower area of our base. Just trying to get rid of all this stuff over here. We should be able to push it back pretty quickly. We got it cleared out over on this side fairly easily, and so I don't think we'll have to worry about it too much over here. I kind of scanned through it. It only looks like there was a very, very small collection of carbon dioxide left right there. And so if I can push this all out of here, I'm trying not to use my algae right now for construction tasks, but it's the sort of thing that happens, you know? We're living that algae life. God, cleaning algae. I used to be an aquarium person. I loved aquariums when I was growing up. When I was a kid, I always had an aquarium. And, like, I loved aquariums. And the greatest invention ever in the history of aquariums is a fish called the Plecostomus. I had a Plecostomus that was probably about 10 or 11 inches long. He was a really big Plecostomus. He lived for 15 years or so. They'll live basically forever. They're kind of like catfish, bottom feeders. But man, that Plecostomus dude, he keep that fish tank sparkling. It didn't matter how many other fish you had over there. You had that big old Plecostomus in there. Every single day you'd see him up against the glass just mopping all the algae off of it, eating every last bit of it. What a great fish, man. I love it when you've got like an ecosystem like that inside of an aquarium where it takes care of itself. Like, you don't really need to clean it because you've balanced it out so that there's a type of fish in there that eats every type of refuse in there. And it's satisfying to have an aquarium that works like that. Oh, we got a bunch of carbon dioxide in there too. It should filter downwards, I think. I don't know why it's getting caught up inside of there, but it's probably due to the excavation efforts we did earlier. Oh, there is a little bit of carbon dioxide in there. Okay. Well, I'm going to focus first on just getting all this done. We don't have enough algae right now to run a ton of algae terrariums. My other suggestion would be that we don't have any oxygen generation. And so at this point, we are 100 going to have to put down one of these guys right here. I don't think we'll need more than 2. So I'll put in a couple. That might be overkill right there. Like I said, the preservation of our algae is one of the things that is paramount to me right now, but our air pressure is a little messed up and people are holding their breath in areas where they shouldn't be holding their breath, like the main work area of our base. So let's go ahead and get them free breathing, because at the moment the only thing that they've been doing is free balling, and I've told them that like underwear is mandatory in the workspace. Like, how are you not going to wear underwear in the workspace, man? Something's going to get caught up in a machine. Like, you're going to get your dick caught in a planer, and then everybody's just going to be, like, upset. Like, oh, this is a union violation. But, like, what can you do for people, you know? Like, there's a special kind of stupid where you tell them not to have their dick out in the machine shop, and they still do it, you know? What can I do about that? What can I do about that physically? This over here, we're going to have to do something a little bit special on this side. It's going to look a little bit janky. Yes, I know it looks a little bit janky, but it's going to have to be what it is for right now, because I did not plan appropriately. We can also deconstruct these scaffold ladders. Those can go. Ain't no reason to have those any further. And so once those are up and out of the way, can I... I can't. Okay, some of the buildings will allow you to relocate them, and you can take them from one spot to another. Oxygen looks fairly breathable here, so we'll deconstruct that, and we'll move the next one over to here. So that's going to be in our oxygen menu. We'll drag and drop that one right into the thickest concentration of dioxide. In addition, we probably want to get a composting heap up and running, because we're about to have polluted dirt that comes out of both of these toilets once they fill up. And so actually I would prioritize this first. This is going to be of utmost importance, whereas everything else is kind of importance. Like, everything else needs to get done, but this really needs to get done. And so the compost heap will allow you to turn human waste into fertilizer, which actually is more important than it sounds. Because if the human waste just lays on the ground after they clean out the toilets, it'll put polluted oxygen into the air, and we don't actually have any utilities right now to deal with polluted oxygen. We have no way to deal with that issue at the moment, and so I don't want that to happen. I'm going to have them grab that algae from down there, and that looks like it's going to be the extent. Aside from this algae over here, which is going to be sketchy until I drain that water chamber. Yeah, I'm going to have to drain that one too. And then there's not a whole lot of algae up here either. That's granite. Okay. Out here we should start to see gold amalgam. Yeah, there it is. A natural gas geyser. It looks like it's emitting hydrogen. Oh no, it's doing natural gas. Hydrogen is orange too, as I recall. Sleet wheat. Okay. This down here is a great little cache of slime and whatnot, but the second we start farming this, we're going to get polluted oxygen. So the way to do this would be to put an airlock right here that separates the rest of the base from it with something that purifies polluted oxygen in there, and then just have them start mining this shit out so that we can get like an endless supply of algae and whatnot. That research, we're done with the tier 1 research, and so I'm going to deconstruct that for right now because that is suboptimal placement. Like I told you, it's just a placeholder for the moment. We'll want to get some beds up and going pretty soon. But for now, it looks like, where is my, let me see here. Do we have an oxygen menu? There we go. Inside of this menu, so we've got unbreathable areas. We've got a little bit of carbon dioxide left over there. It's kind of weird that there's carbon dioxide trapped up here and it's not falling down that way. It's kind of pocketed up, unfortunately. Hopefully, these two can get the remainder of that carbon dioxide taken care of so that we can work on other projects. Because I'm not very interested in kind of having gaseous areas of our base that we can't utilize. Over here, my suggestion would be that we continue to drop tiles in. We'll keep it 3 high for right now. Keep it 3 high. Cut a yee high. There we go. That might be a bad idea, but Yamo do it anyways because this game don't own me like that. This game don't run me like that. And I'll probably make this our research station. I'll have this set up so that we can put in real batteries on this side. We don't have any research or anything going on right now. High concentrations of gas in all the applicable areas where we need there to be gas. So that's good. This area looks like it's starting to clean out of the carbon dioxide, but it looks like we've got a little bit of a journey ahead. So I'll leave both of those terrariums up for right now. This area just has little pockets, and I'm okay with that. I think I'll leave the pockets where they are for right now. It's nothing that's going to be detrimental or hurt us in the long term. I will start putting in doors, however, just to make the base look a little bit more professional too. Little construction projects here and there to make everything look a tiny bit nicer. And then we can finally go into building ourselves like a communal sleeping area. And so I'll put in a bed there. And I'm just going to 2-space the beds. And we're going to save these little spaces in between for things like art projects, paintings, eating spaces, relaxation machines, things to get their stress back down. Because it looks like, actually, May and Nails are fine. It looks like, I think, Ren is the only one. This is normally where I would do a Ren and Stimpy impression. But frankly, it's been so long since Ren and Stimpy was, like, pop culture viable as a reference that it's kind of like doing a Beavis and Butthead reference at this point. Like, yeah, I did grow up with those things, but they're not really relevant anymore. And, you know, you're not even sure, like, how many people would catch the reference. It's weird that Beavis and Butthead was never syndicated, isn't it? Does MTV still, like, own that? They just held on to the IP? Or, like, who owns Beavis and Butthead nowadays? Like, that's one of those things that, like, fell off and then just never got developed further. Like, they never did anything with it. On this side, oxygen's okay over here. Good. I'll probably put in some ceiling lamps and stuff like that, but up until we've got our power solution 100% ironed out, I don't think that's going to be a focus for right now. I don't think it's going to be a thing that I care about. Do medical cots require... I don't know. We'll put in medical cots over here, just in case they need to feel better. We'll throw in a couple of those right there, and this will be the medical area. I'm not going to put in any potted plants or anything like that. If these require electricity, they probably won't get plugged in for a while. Let me go to the jobs menu now that we have medical science. I need to assign, so we've got massage, hydrofan, power, repair, mop, harvest, sweep, deliver, dig. I don't know exactly what medical science counts as. Probably massage, maybe? No, because massage is tinkering. I'm going to assume that they automatically do, because on my jobs menu for priorities, there's nothing I can set up for medical over there. And so hopefully they just resolve that on their own. We've got those two running over here. However, that is going to... We got 6,000 algae to play with for the rest of the game. 6,000 algae. All right. So we don't want to build under this water chamber. I can tell you right now that's all kinds of a horrible idea. Don't do it. Don't entertain that as a thought for a moment. Instead, we'll put the first little leg of our electrical grid down here. So we'll throw that in. My next suggestion would be that we deconstruct these trash batteries. That'd be a dope name for a punk band. Trash Battery. Hell yeah. Dude, I would rock that. That's kind of like Witchpire being the most awesome name for a metal band like I would make. Witchpire is the name of my next project. I can promise you that. Witchpire! It's going to be dope. It's going to be like Powerwolf. Let's see here. I needed electricity, and we've got big batteries now. The big batteries are far more efficient than the little tiny shitty batteries, so I would just run those. And then we've already got a power solution up and running, so this construction should be done fairly rapidly. This power grid is going to be overstressed very quickly, so just be aware you can only put so much stuff connected to like one set of circuitry, otherwise it starts to overload. And the way you find that out is you would go to your power grid right here, and if the wires are frequently turning yellow, that means that you need to put a power transformer on it because it's drawing. Basically, there are spikes in the usage and is causing it to be overutilized, and so the power transformer will make it so that it regulates the power going through, so you don't get those big spikes coming through that cause the wiring to be stressed. For right now, we don't have that many things functioning, and so I wouldn't worry about it that much, but later on, it's going to be problematic, and it's going to cause issues for us. Now, we also want to come up with some kind of ventilation system, which is, as I told you in the previous episodes, I never messed around with ventilation before. I did that on purpose so that there would be something inside the game that I would struggle with. However, I think this might get interesting because basically what we need is we need for there to be an oxygen generator probably down here inside of an airlock. The oxygen generator will split up water and it'll produce hydrogen as a byproduct, but it'll also produce oxygen. We want the hydrogen to get trapped in here. We want the oxygen to go up to the top and get piped out to the rest of the base. And then we want to have a hydrogen generator in here that takes the excess hydrogen and processes it into electricity so that we're not constantly running on treadmills. These over here, I'm going to say all except for organic because it's just easier that way for right now. We can also copy the settings fairly easily like so that they'll just start hauling tasks and we'll get the floor cleaned up so it looks a little bit nicer in here. I also need to run some wiring down to my research bay. So let's get that done very rapidly. This is permanently where the research bay is going to be at until we run out of space. Wow, there's so much carbon dioxide over here. It looks like it's being generated because the amount keeps getting higher. I'm going to deconstruct that so we're not using up the algae any longer, because they will constantly just feed more algae into that thing if you let them do it. And so there it is. That's taken care of. I need to get a water pump down into here. Water pump needs to pull down in. Let's take our 5th duplicate, and that's going to be the last one that we take. Unless people vote ridiculously aggressively. So that guy's good at tinkering. So we've got Hassan. He's creativity and tinkering. Iron Gut, and he's a scaredy cat, so he can't fight. We've got Ruby, Soho. 9 athletics and low creativity, but she's an early bird, which means that she's good at night. Or I'm sorry, she's good in the morning. Then we've got Twinkle Toes, which means she's very good at athletics. We've also got Catalina, who's good at tinkering, learning, cooking, but she's dimensionally adept, which means she can't build. She's a vomiter. We'll take her. And that's going to be probably our last colonist. I might take a 6th. But that would be a tad more risky than I'd like to. Other than that, we could probably get some food stampers down here to make life a tad easier. A microbe musher. So I'll add 2 of those, and then we will put them onto the power grid. This power grid is going to be maxed out very soon, and so we probably won't want to add a whole lot more to this without taking other things off of it. Luckily, I got plans for that in the future, so I wouldn't worry about it for right now. Yeah, that carbon dioxide has got to be leaching in from somewhere because this thing's trying to do work, but it just can't get ahead of that carbon dioxide pocket right there. It's trying really hard, and I think it'll eat it all up eventually. But for right now, it looks like it's struggling. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it over the long term, and if it ends up being an issue, we'll just double stack, or we'll put a carbon dioxide scrubber down there once the research is done. We have no production down here, so I'm going to say to do that continuously and that continuously so long as you have the materials you need to get it done. As far as research is concerned, we can now jump into the 2nd tier. I usually start with the 2nd tier on sanitation. Sanitation gives you access to the air deodorizer, which is very useful. The air scrubber, we can go with percolation, which will give us the electrolyzer, and it will give us the air scrubber. However, I wouldn't start running electrolyzers until you have the means to filter it out. And so I think with that, we would want, I think, pressure modulation. No, it doesn't have what I wanted. Where's the thing that I needed here? So I would rather have performance combustion before we start playing around with electrolyzers, even if that means that we take a hit. Yeah, let's go sanitation first. Having nicer bathrooms sounds like a plan to me. What I'm going to suggest is that we put in flooring right here, by the way. Let's dig this plant right here, if we can get rid of it, so I can put in a further floor. I'm going to drop a ladder down into this area. And my point in doing that is so that we can widen this chamber out slightly. I want this chamber to be a little bit larger, so that it has better room. It looks like it's getting the job done over here. I may stack a second one, though, just to be careful. Oxygen looks to be about the right density in each of these areas, so I'm happy with it. As far as decor goes, I would say that putting in blank canvases, like so, sculpting blocks here and there, just little things to reduce their stress, probably a decent idea. And then as far as furniture goes, I should be able to fit mess tables in front of all this as well, so if they have a place to eat, they should be a little bit happier. Over here, we've got our poop shoot o' food, our poop shoot o' vittles. God, they did that on purpose. They made it look like a constipated poop falling from a butt of like a dog or something on purpose, so that it just looks the absolute... Somebody sat down, and that was a conscious design decision to make it look like that, so that it would just be as unappetizing as possible, so that the player would just be like, ew, that's nasty. However, there is a downside to this free food that we're producing right now. It's made out of mud and water. Food that's made out of mud and water has a pretty high likelihood of giving you diarrhea, and so we'll have to watch out for that. We want to keep this too thick over here. Too thick! We got a skill increase. Somebody got tinkering raised up to level 2. Very nice. I'll take that. Sounds good to me. A lot of these projects up here should start getting done as time goes along, but for now, there's nothing to do but chill and wait for a moment. So with this pocket over here, it also looks like we got polluted oxygen. That's no good. We'll have to get rid of that at some point, but I can throw in... Scrubbers are super cheap in this game, and you can throw them wherever you need them, and they should be able to get rid of polluted oxygen pretty quickly, to the point where polluted oxygen is not really something that I worry about that much. Our sanitation research is done, so we can start thinking about running pipes all over the place and starting to drain water bays. The next thing we're going to want is we're going to need filtration before we go any further. And without filtration, we're not going to be able to create things that, like, recycle our water. Which, since water is one of the preliminary things in this game that matters, you're going to want that. You're definitely going to want that. What I'd like to do is try and drain this chamber into here if I can. That way I can put the pump at the bottom and we won't have to worry about it for a while. Over here we've got water. That natural gas visor over there, or a geyser, is super tempting to go after, but I've actually heard a lot of players say, just say no to gas vents. A lot of people seem to think gas vents are the devil's path, and they'll get you killed. Let's go ahead and take this ladder upwards. Not that high, though, because we need a 2 thick. In fact, I'm going to have to make a transfer right here so that it goes up and around. I may dig... It's sketchy. I want to go by this 3x3, or I'm sorry, like a 3x7 right here, so that it dumps straight into here and I don't have to use pumps to get it done. But maybe I'll put the pump in here first, and once I put the pump in here first, we'll start worrying about it a little bit more heavily. Might be the safer option. We'll mine that out for right now. I don't really have the workforce at the moment with all the little management tasks and all the research and everything that's going on to get it done. How many algae bars did we put right there? Mush bars, we got 2.97. Yeah, just keep pooping out bars. Are you the guy that's really good at cooking? Yeah, you're crazy good at cooking. For the most part, the reason why you don't have to manage your jobs is because it seems to internally prioritize who does jobs anyways based on skill level. And so it's not like RimWorld where sometimes you'll have like a level 1 researcher doing a task that you want a level 13 researcher to do, and they just kind of do that. This game seems to sort a tiny bit better than like RimWorld does, for example. It seems to ease the player's passage, which is why I've heard a lot of people say that this game is incredibly easy to learn, but incredibly difficult to actually be good at. I do think the game's a little bit content light right now. Like, I can't wait for the game to have more content, because right about the time I get to about 5 hours of gameplay in this game, I always run out of stuff to do. And that's the point at which I'm like, I keep hoping that there's going to be some kind of combat or like pirate raids or something like that that you'll have to deal with to make the game a little bit more interesting and focused. I do think that one of their patches should 100% be just like random stuff that happens along the way, RimWorld style. You know, like the eclipses and all the stuff like that, heat waves and things like that that happen in RimWorld. This game needs that to shake you out of your... to kind of shake you out of your torpor, I guess, because the game, like, really, as long as you plan well, nothing goes wrong in this game, and that can make it a little bit, not boring, but it can make it a little bit humdrum. It needs random things that go wrong to kind of shake up the player and force them out of their comfort zone. I think that's the big thing the game's missing right now. So we got the chamber right there. Still trying to decide how I want to do this. I think I'll just pump it out. It's safest to pump the water out and into this chamber down here, so that's probably what I'll end up doing. Put those right there. I will probably leave that wall alone right there. I mean, we've got a lot of water down here. I don't really need to pump it until we find that we're running out of water. So setting up that process now might be a little bit... it might be a little bit of overkill. So we've got sanitation, we've got filtration. Next I would take... let's take percolation. I like having purification devices. It does look like they're making some kind of process over here against this carbon dioxide. Although I'm a little bit confused where that carbon dioxide's coming from. Like, we're getting a lot of carbon dioxide over here, and I can't really figure out where it's originating from. Like, we are getting a lot of carbon dioxide over here. I don't know if maybe it's just being pushed that way by all of our oxygen generation or whatever. But for whatever reason, it just seems to all be collecting right there, which is a pain in my ass. Hey, he painted a picture. It's mediocre and quaint, but it did add a whole bunch of decor to this area. Made it a little bit nicer. And I think there is a menu for that as well. If you're trying to see like how beautiful the areas are. This area should be all green because they sleep inside of it. It'll help keep their stress low so that you don't end up with people like crying and weeping and freaking out all over the place. That's for later. That's for later. We don't want them to do that right now. We want them to do that further on into the game. The other thing is that we absolutely 100% need to get some rations stored up. Our food supply, such as it is, mush bars. Our food supply, such as it is not looking good. We also probably want to set up a farming solution pretty soon. I will more than likely do that up there. Research is done, which is the gift of having really good researchers. We'll go with combustion engines next. We do have polluted oxygen in this area. So I'll look into getting rid of that. I think having a scrubber is fairly easy. I don't know if that's in the refinement or the oxygen menu. But the air deodorizer, pretty simple to use. I mean, honestly, it doesn't require electricity. All it requires is sand. And you should have tons of sand when you play this game. Like filtration medium. Yeah, we've got like 26,000 kilograms of sand. It's not something we have a low amount of, so I wouldn't worry about it for right now. Should be very easy to deal with. As far as the battery storage, I wouldn't worry about... so you can take this right here, and if you click on these manual generators, what you can do is you can set them up to do certain things at certain thresholds. So, for example, this right here means that they'll recharge the batteries when they get down to 50% energy left over. That's a fairly conservative place to do it. Some people prefer it lower, some people prefer it higher. It doesn't really matter to me. I usually just kind of pick one and go for it. I don't know why the battery went out right there for a minute. I think it's because the tiny battery went out. I'm going to get rid of the tiny battery entirely because they're spending way too much time charging the tiny battery, and I just don't like dealing with it. We'll just keep these two for right now until our power drain becomes... if our power drain becomes something that we're having trouble surmounting, that's when we'll start playing around with other stuff. But for right now, that's episode 2 of Oxygen Not Included. My name is Splattercat. Thank you for joining me here. We have a decent infrastructure set up. I'm pretty happy with the way things are going at the moment. Once we get our level 2 research banged out, that's going to be the reason why a lot of the digging tasks and things like that are not getting done. There's just too many jobs to do right now, and they're having trouble keeping up with it with only 5 people. I'll probably take us up to 6, and I'll stop right there since that's how many beds we have. And then we'll get the entire base set up so that everything is like functioning and taking care of business. And once that's done, we'll start upping it to 7 to 15 to 25 to 35 duplicates until eventually we die horrifically. I hope you guys have liked this series so far. If you wanted to get the game for yourself, obviously you can do that through the description. I've got a link for you down there. Aside from that, I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you for stopping on in. Goodbye, everybody. It's been a lot of fun, and it's always a pleasure to host you all here at the Nerd Castle. Farewell.